Wealth is a state of consciousness. That's all it is. If you want to attract more things into your life, if you want to have the highest probability of seeing what you want manifest into your existence, one of the most important things you got to understand is, are you in poverty consciousness or are you in wealth consciousness? We're going to be talking about in this video how to actually manifest a wealth state of consciousness. And then when you're in a wealth state of consciousness, what's going to start to happen is you're no longer going to be in poverty consciousness. And this is going to start to change, first of all, how you feel, and then also you have the highest probability of seeing all the opportunities that you weren't able to actually see before. Because when you're in that poverty consciousness, you literally can't see the opportunities that are under your nose. You can't see the wealth that's right there. It could be right in front of your eyes. You might be having all these opportunities left and right, but unless you're in the right state of consciousness, you might not even be able to perceive it. And so that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this video. So I highly encourage you to stay till the very end of this video, because this video is really going to allow you to understand the core of wealth and really how to tap into that state that's going to allow you to feel good and have the highest probability of seeing all the things you want to manifest in your life. So we're going to be talking about how to manifest wealth consciousness. And of course, as a result of this, remove poverty consciousness. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell, because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. So the first thing you want to understand is that you want to be in what we call in an acceptance frequency. And an acceptance frequency. What does this mean? This means that when you're going through your life as a little ego that's in resistance, that's the opposite of acceptance. And when we're going through life living in an ego state of consciousness, it's funny because the ego, all the ego does is it resists. It resists this present moment. It says, this present moment doesn't have wealth. This present moment isn't good enough. This present moment isn't what is gonna allow me to feel the abundance. This present moment isn't good enough. Actually, I need some present moment in the future in order to feel that fulfillment. And so the truth is that what we need to do is we need to learn to be in a surrendered state of consciousness, where you're actually able to see the wealth that's already right here. Like, the wealth is not one day in the future. You think that, oh, once I get all these manifestations, then I'm going to experience the wealth. But even Bob Marley says, wealth is literally something within you. Bob Marley talks about this kind of stuff all the time, because being rich, this is what Bob Marley is talking about. Being rich is not how much money you have. It's about, the way I see it and the way I'm going to explain it to you right now, it's how connected you are to the source. How connected you really are to who you really are, who you actually are. If you know who you really are, then you're connected to wealth, because who you are is already wealthy, is already abundant, doesn't need anything else to fulfill itself. And the paradox is that when you can start to understand that, when you can start to tap into that state of wealth that is connected to the source of who you really are, what begins to happen is that now you're starting to feel that wealth and you don't need anything out there to feel it. And what does this do? This actually starts to change the way you experience life, first of all, and then you start to see all these things happen. So how do you do this? Well, here's the thing. The first step to this process is how in resistance are you to the now? How in resistance are you to this present moment? How much resistance do you have to being here right now? What in your life are you not willing to accept? Because this part of our ego that we don't want to accept is keeping us in a low frequency. And the more that we can do the shadow work, which is accepting what you feel right now, this is where the abundance lies. You have to understand, abundance isn't something that you experience when you finally feel better one day in the future. The paradox is that in order to feel that abundance, you have to really surrender into where you are right now. This is what I call the acceptance frequency. Whenever I am feeling lack, whenever I'm feeling like I don't have enough, whenever I'm feeling any kind of fear, the answer is never going to be out there. Never. I know for a fact, I've proven to myself that the answer is not out there. And the more that I chase out there, and I think that something out there is going to be the solution, the more lack I actually start to feel. So actually, the only way out is actually to go in. The only way out is actually in. You need to go within yourself to really feel into that abundance that is within you. But sometimes it can come from accepting the lack that is right there. This is why affirmations don't work for people. It's like, oh, if I just affirm enough, then I'm gonna attract what I want. But you have to understand that is a huge limitation to the source of who you are. The source of who you are is naturally already abundant. You don't need to keep reminding yourself how abundant you are. You're already abundant. Now you can add affirmations, you can use these tools, but they are gonna work thousands of times more powerfully if you can be in an acceptance frequency. Be in that space of allowing. So that's the first step to this process. The second thing I want you to understand is that when you're in resistance, you actually create more lack. This is what happens. When you're in resistance to this present moment, you create more lack. Why is it actually that over 90% of lottery winners tend to lose their money in actually the first year? Statistically, there's some statistic that shows that a large majority of lottery winners tend to lose their money. Why is this the case? This is the case because actually when lottery winners are in a poverty consciousness, they're so attached to the money. This is just my perspective. Leave a comment down below what you think about this perspective. They're so attached to the money. First of all, they're gonna blow it on random things because they're coming from ego and not their heart. First of all, they're gonna blow it on all these things that they think is gonna cause them abundance when they're just blowing their money and they're fueling all that lack that's in their consciousness. First of all. Second of all, what's gonna start to happen is they're so attached to the money, they might be scared of losing it. And if you're scared of losing it and you're attached to the money, you're attached to being scared of losing it, you're attached to everything. You're attached to your thoughts, you're attached to being scared of losing it, you're attached to not having enough, you're attached to this, you're attached to that, and then you lose the money. So even if you were to randomly get all the money you wanted somehow, if a person that's in a lack state of consciousness and that state of resistance was somehow I was to give you all the money, my prediction is that you wouldn't even, that person, not you, wouldn't even be able to sustain that amount of money. They wouldn't even be able to sustain that abundance long term. Even if you manifest wealth from ego, my claim and prediction is that you won't even be able to sustain it. Because if you can't hold on to it, then what's even the point? Not to hold on to it with your ego, but to actually to keep it in your consciousness. And the way you keep it in your consciousness is by understanding how wealth truly works, which is to understand that wealth is not something outside of you. Wealth is something that is within you. Wealth is not something out there, it's something that's within you. And when you're in resistance to this present moment, you're blocking wealth. You're literally blocking wealth when you resist this present moment. Literally. You're literally blocking wealth when you're resisting this present moment. When you're complaining, when you're saying, I don't have enough, when there's not enough money right now, there's not enough this, all these stories, that's literally a block to wealth. That's literally a block to wealth. And so what we want to understand is that it's such a paradox, because when we can accept this present moment, we create more wealth. When we resist this present moment and we resist what is, and we resist everything that's happening, what do you think that does to your wealth? How you feel? If we're going to define wealth as a feeling, not a financial abundance, although it's connected, don't get me wrong, resisting this present moment isn't a wealthy state of consciousness, is it? Not having peace and equanimity in this moment that's not wealth, that's lack. Not feeling good in this present moment is lack, isn't it? Isn't resisting this present moment lack? Even if you had the money, but you're in resistance, is that really wealth? Is that really what wealth entails? Is wealth having lots of money and resisting this present moment? So understand that resistance, and not only resistance, but resistance to resistance, creates lack. Because you're a human being, you're allowed to feel anger, you're allowed to feel fears, you're allowed to feel joy, you're allowed to feel love, you're allowed to feel negative emotions. The highs and lows are part of life. But the question is, how in resistance are you to them? And the final thing I want you to understand is that when you can find the abundance that is within you in this present moment right now, you're going to start to see more abundance on the outside most of the time. Maybe not necessarily right away, but over time, you're going to start to see that abundance come into your life. You're going to start to see that the more that you can tap into that state of consciousness that's within you, the more that you're going to start to attract all the abundance that you want in the external world. Because the truth is that ultimately, the only thing blocking you from abundance externally is yourself. It's not some external strategy you're lacking. It's not that you don't have the resources. It's not that you don't have enough money to make more money. The only block to truly attracting more money is yourself. And that's hard to hear, because some people might think, well, Francis, there's these blocks, there's those blocks. Let me ask you this. Even if I was to sit here and coach you on how to make more money, how to make the money you really want, how to create the money that you truly want to see in your life, do you think that's an external obstacle, or do you think it's an internal obstacle? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that skill sets aren't important. I'm not saying that structure and having the right skills and having the right logistics is not an important part of manifesting money. It is. But do you think it's the strategy that's more important? Or do you think it's the way the person shows up into the strategy that's important? Why is it that one strategy works really good for somebody, and then that same strategy works horribly for somebody else? Why is that the case? Seriously. Is it the strategy, or is it the person and their state of consciousness and how they show up with the strategy? Very important to consider. Because you might realize at some point in your life, hopefully you realize it right now as I'm explaining it to you, the strategy is important, but if you don't show up in a way that the strategy can work, well then it's not going to work. You can have the best strategy. Here's the A to B steps to create a successful business, to create the money that you really want, to live the life that you really want. But if you're not going to show up in a way that is completely in alignment with that strategy working, if you're not going to show up in a way that you're connected to your heart space, if you're not going to show up in a way that you're connected to who you really are and the wealth that's within you, believe me, that strategy may not work for you. And if it does, are you going to be able to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor? Are you going to be able to enjoy the wealth that you're creating? Or are you going to find a way to lose it? Because that's what the ego does. Even if the ego manifests something, usually it's afraid of losing it, okay? So this is what you got to consider here as well. So you got to understand that if you can tap into that state of wealth that's within you, first of all, you're going to feel good once again. And just to conclude this video, you're going to start to see magic happen in your life. I don't have to worry about money in my life anymore. Money is not something that I need to fear about. I don't need to worry about money. Because once you can know who you really are, show up in the world in a way that you're giving that love out into the world because you know you are love, and you combine that with some logistics, whatever you're doing, and if you're an artist, if you're a coach, like if you really give that, like if you are wealth, if you know you are wealth, if you know you are love, and then you're spreading that out into the world, you're never going to have to worry about money ever in your life. And even if you are worried, you're going to be able to transmute that energy into more light and more love. And then you'll probably end up making money again after, even if you worried about it. You see? Because now you're not resisting the resistance, okay? So you're never going to have to worry about it ever again. Seriously. And even if you do, you can transmute that energy into more love and light. So that's all I have for this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, once again, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. As always, have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.